What if I told you that the secret of life and death was written over 36,000 years ago, and that it was hidden from you on purpose? What if I proved to you that your life, your pain, and even your rebirths are not a coincidence, but a programmed cycle that you can break today? This isn't a theory. It's what one of the most dangerous and secret texts in history teaches, the Emerald Tablet of Thoth, the Atlantean. He left a complete map of the soul's journey, explaining exactly what happens when we die, why karma traps us in repetitions of suffering, and how to use death itself to achieve total freedom. In this video, I won't give you vague theories. I'll hand you the keys. I'll show you the different realms of existence, from hells of pain to paradises of pleasure, and reveal which one you're likely in right now. And most importantly, I'll teach you the secret Thoth used to die and be reborn consciously, retaining his memories and power. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover today could destroy everything you thought you knew about reality. If you feel like you are here for a reason, comment, "I am ready to awaken." The soul becomes what it contemplates. In the fertile valleys of ancient India, while society was organized around rituals and duties to ensure a righteous life, a group of marginal thinkers, the Shramanas, looked at existence and saw something different. They saw not a gift, but a trap, an endless cycle of pain, desire, and suffering from which escape was necessary at all costs. It was in this cauldron of questioning that a word gained currency and defined the human condition for millennia: Samsara, the incessant cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Humanity's fundamental question had changed. It was no longer about how to live a good life to please the gods, but rather, why does suffering repeat itself so relentlessly? Why, even after death, do we seem to return to experience the same anguish? It was a prince, Siddhartha Gautama, who abandoned all his luxury to find the answer. By meditating deeply, he didn't invent samsara. He saw its inner workings. He understood with overwhelming clarity that the wheel was not a punishment imposed by a divine entity, but a direct and inevitable consequence of our own ignorance. Millennia earlier, in the sands of Egypt, the sage Thoth described this same universal dynamic through what he called the principle of rhythm. He taught that everything in the universe flows, inward and outward. Everything has its tides. Everything rises and falls in a constant and precise balance. Samsara, therefore, is not a curse or an iron prison built by a celestial jailer. It is a perfect mirror that reflects the exact state of your own consciousness. The wheel turns because you make it turn, even if you don't know it. The pendulum of rebirth, which throws you from one life to another, swings in exact proportion to your lack of understanding of who you are and the laws that govern existence. It only begins to quiet, to slow its pace, as your understanding expands. You are not trapped in the wheel, you are identified with its movement. You believe yourself to be a cycle of ups and downs, of pleasure and pain, when in fact you are the consciousness observing it all unfold. Freedom lies not in stopping the wheel, but in finding its center. And when we look at the axis, at the very center that keeps this cosmic gear in perpetual motion, we don't find a furious god or a vengeful demon. What Buddha and other sages saw was something much more intimate and disturbing. They saw three primordial impulses, three forces that arise directly from within us, from our own minds. They are three poisons that we inject into our souls at every moment, fueling the eternal cycle of suffering and repetition without even realizing it. Understanding the nature of these three poisons is the first real step toward finding the antidote. It's the moment you stop blaming the outside world for your pain and begin to look at the source of it all, yourself. But what few know, and what has been kept secret by mystery schools, is that the antidote to these poisons doesn't need to be created. It already exists. It has been codified in 7 universal laws that govern all reality, 7 keys that Thoth left for humanity. The 3 poisons and the 7 keys. At the beating heart of the wheel of Samsara, Buddha found not a judge with a gavel, but rather 3 impulses that poison the soul and keep it spinning in a cycle of pain. The first is the serpent of hatred and aversion, the force that makes us reject, attack, and turn away from everything we consider different or threatening, blinding us to the truth that everything is connected. The second is the pig of ignorance, the fog that prevents us from seeing our true divine nature, making us believe we are only this body, this name, this history of suffering. The third is the rooster of greed and attachment, the insatiable desire that chains us to the material world, making us seek happiness in things that can never fill our emptiness. These 3 poisons are not moral failings or sins that require punishment. They are impulses as human and automatic as breathing, reactions programmed into our survival system. It is from them, from our deepest fears and desires, that we weave the bars of our own existential cage. Every time we feel anger, cling to an outcome, or act without conscience, we reinforce the structure of our prison, ensuring that the wheel keeps turning, leading us to the next learning experience, which often manifests as pain. On the other side of the world, in the mystery schools of ancient Egypt, Thoth gave humanity the 7 keys to transcend this same prison. The 7 Hermetic Principles engraved on the legendary emerald tablet are not commandments or rules to be followed. They are precise descriptions of the immutable laws that govern reality, a user's manual for the universe. The principle of cause and effect, for example, perfectly echoes the law of karma, teaching that every thought, feeling, and action is a seed that will inevitably bear fruit. Nothing happens by chance. The principle of vibration reveals that nothing is still. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. Your life experience is not determined by external events, but by the energetic frequency you emit. The principle of polarity shows us a liberating truth. Hate and love, ignorance and wisdom, fear and courage are not opposites and separate things. They are simply 2 extremes of the same thing, 2 poles of the same energy. This means you can transmute one into the other, transforming the lead of fear into the gold of courage within your own inner laboratory. The 3 poisons keep us desperately clinging to one pole, making us believe that darkness is the only reality. The 7 keys, on the other hand, teach us to walk the razor's edge of balance, to navigate between opposites without being controlled by them. Thoth's wisdom does not nullify Buddha's, it deepens it, offering a spiritual technology, an inner alchemy to transform poisons into antidotes. Understanding these laws is the first step towards ceasing to be a passive victim of the wheel and becoming a conscious co-creator of your destiny. It is the combined vibration of these forces, whether poisonous or healing, that gives rise to the different realms of existence. These are not physical places, but dimensions of consciousness, worlds within worlds, separated not by miles but by vibrational frequency. Each realm is a state of being, a lesson to be learned. And at the top of this complex vibrational hierarchy lies a realm of light and pleasure so intense that it becomes, paradoxically, the most subtle and dangerous of all traps for the soul. At the top of the wheel, where the light of consciousness shines with almost blinding intensity, resides a realm many would call paradise, the realm of the devas. On this plane of existence, suffering is but a distant memory, a tale told of lower worlds. Desire materializes with the simple force of thought. There is no hunger, no loss, no rejection. It is a life of uninterrupted pleasures, a golden existence where happiness seems the natural and eternal state. But this light, as the wise Thoth warned, can be more blinding than any darkness. Born into a cradle of cosmic privilege, the beings of this realm see the pain and struggle of the other planes, but are incapable of understanding it. Their indifference stems not from malice, but from a profound blindness generated by the total absence of effort and challenge. The peace they enjoy is not an achievement, but an inherited condition. And thus it becomes oblivion. They forget the value of struggle, the strength born of overcoming, and the compassion that can only be learned through pain. Their apparent strength is, in fact, their greatest weakness. Having never experienced a fall, they don't know how to rise. Their arrogance, their certainty of superiority, is merely a fragile mask that hides the vulnerability of a power not earned, but simply given by the chance of karmic birth. Just below them, in a neighboring realm of power and eternal conflict, dwell the Asuras. These are beings of brilliant intelligence, masters of occult knowledge, and capable of feats that defy the imagination. They do not seek the pleasure of the devas. They seek something far more dangerous: absolute control. The Asuras are motivated by envy and constant paranoia. They gaze upon the effortless pleasure of the devas and are consumed by a jealousy that fuels their ambition. They live in a state of perpetual fear of losing the power they have accumulated, of being surpassed, of being deceived. To maintain their dominance, they make pacts with the forbidden, manipulate universal laws, and their intelligence, devoid of compassion and soul, converts into cold, calculating cruelty. They are the strategists and tyrants of Samsara. Thoth, in his teachings on the principle of polarity, reveals the hidden truth behind these two seemingly opposing realms. They are merely two sides of the same coin. The devas represent the passive pole of power, the light that, lacking movement and challenge, becomes stagnation and oblivion. The Asuras, in turn, are the active pole, the force that, devoid of wisdom, becomes tyranny and self-destruction. Both are completely trapped in the illusion of control, believing they rule the world, when in reality they are merely puppets of their own passions. And since the wheel never stops turning, the fate of both realms is inevitable. When the rhythm of the universe changes, the good fortune of the devas runs out, and they plummet into despair, unsure how to cope with the first real pain of their long lives. The Asura's tower of control, built on the sands of ambition and fear, inevitably crumbles under the weight of its own complexity. The fall of both realms does not bring them to an intermediate plane, but rather hurls them violently toward much denser depths, where consciousness, exhausted by power and privilege, finally slumbers, into realms where the struggle is no longer for control, but for simple, brutal survival. The deserts of the soul. When consciousness plummets from the realms of power and privilege, it lands on denser planes, where the struggle for existence becomes the only reality. We arrive at the deserts of the soul, the intermediate realms. The first of these is what Eastern traditions call the animal kingdom. Here, instinct reigns supreme, and survival becomes the sole purpose. Life is an endless repetition of learned patterns, a blind obedience to biological impulses and orders, whose origin and purpose have been lost to time. The body commands, the mind obeys, and the soul falls into a deep slumber. The prison in this realm is not made of visible chains or stone walls. The true bars are routine, the paralyzing fear of change, and the total absence of questioning. Wisdom does not come with age, only fatigue. Food fills the stomach, but the mind remains empty and submissive. Yet it is precisely here, in this state of torpor, that we find a silent nobility. They are those who sustain the world without knowing it, whose love is expressed not in words, but in tireless work and silent sacrifice for their offspring or their group. Alongside this realm, vibrating at a different but equally imprisoning frequency, is the realm of the pretas, known as the hungry ghosts. Their hunger, however, is not for food. It is an insatiable hunger for recognition, for applause, for validation, for possessions. They live in a state of perpetual desire, believing that the next object, the next compliment, or the next achievement will finally fill the void they feel. But each sip of admiration they receive is like drinking salt water. It only increases their thirst. Each object they accumulate ultimately possesses them, demanding their energy and attention. Their inner emptiness is a bottomless pit, and their identity is a patchwork, built entirely on the perception of others. They are prisoners of the gaze of others, living in an eternal parade where appearances are more important than essence. Their kindness is often a performance, a calculated act born not of genuine compassion, but of a desperate need to be seen, loved, and applauded by the outside world. Thoth, in explaining the principle of vibration, gives us the key to understanding these realms. They are not distant places, but states of being, frequencies of consciousness that all of us, without exception, can experience in our daily lives. The torpor of the animal kingdom is the trap of our comfort zone when we refuse to grow and question. The insatiable hunger of the pretas is the echo of our own ego, which desperately seeks outside of us the validation and love that can only be found within. Recognizing these patterns within ourselves is a crucial and painful step on the journey. It's the moment when the soul, exhausted from wandering these deserts of blind instinct and endless desire, begins to yearn for something deeper, something that neither comfort nor admiration can offer. And when all external light seems to fade, when desire consumes every last spark of hope and routine saps all vitality, the journey takes us to an even darker place. A place everyone fears, but which, paradoxically, hides the most unexpected and powerful of truths. At the lowest, densest, and darkest point of the entire cycle, where suffering seems the only possible reality, lies the realm of Naraka. This is the plane that many cultures have described as hell. Here the soul, often in its first incarnation, was greeted not with love or welcome, but with brutal cruelty. The pain does not cease, because the consciousness, shaped by this initial experience, knows nothing else. Suffering becomes the default language, the only way of interacting with the world. This is the realm of the predators of Samsara, beings who have been so deeply wounded that they have completely lost the capacity for empathy. They see others not as sentient beings, but as mere objects to be used for their pleasure, benefit, or simply to vent their own accumulated pain. Many of them were not born here. They came from much higher realms, such as the Asuras or even the Devas, but were dragged down by a spiral of anger, arrogance, and excess, plummeting to the bottom of the pit of existence. To the unwary observer, Naraka may even present a seductive facade. Its inhabitants are masters of manipulation and often surround themselves with immediate and intense pleasures. But all of these pleasures are built on the suffering of others. They are capable of the most unthinkable acts without feeling a shred of remorse, for they are plunged into perpetual madness, a total disconnection from the source of life. They become black holes of consciousness, sucking the light from everything around them to feed their own darkness. However, ancient wisdom, both from the Buddhist East and Hermetic Egypt, teaches us a shocking and liberating truth. This hell is not eternal. There is no perpetual damnation. Thoth, in his mysterious emerald tablets, reveals that death is never an end, but always a portal. He describes the halls of Amenti, the Egyptian underworld, not as a place of punishment, but as a cosmic womb of transformation, an interdimensional space where the soul can be stripped of its impurities and have the chance to be reborn. Naraka is, in fact, a purgatory without a clock, an abyss of self-imposed suffering that, however deep, can be crossed. The exit is not a gift, but an achievement. To escape, the soul must first stop projecting its pain outward and face the damage it has caused, the cruelty it has inflicted and received. Hell is not made of flames and brimstone, but of accumulated misunderstanding, hatred, and resentment. The only thing that can dissolve this darkness is a single, tiny spark of awareness. And when a soul, even from here, from the depths of the abyss, manages to generate this spark, when it finally tires of suffering and being the cause of suffering, its awakening echoes throughout all realms. For this soul has seen the most desolate and desperate side of existence and survived. Now, the only thing left for it to discover is love. This journey of ascension from the deepest point of darkness is the most powerful of all, but it is only possible in a very special place, a realm that is neither the highest nor the lowest, but is by far the rarest and most precious of all. The human kingdom, the key to everything. Between the peaks of heavenly pleasure and the abysses of hellish suffering lies a realm of unstable balance, a plane of existence that is the true jewel of the universe, the human realm. Here the soul is not born fatally inclined toward the light, like the Devas, nor is it inexorably drawn toward darkness, like the beings of Naraka. The human soul walks a tightrope, suspended between heaven and hell, with the unique and precious ability to look in both directions and, more importantly, to choose which path to follow. We are born with pain, it's true. The very act of being born is a trauma. But unlike any other being in any other realm, we have the ability to embrace this pain, to question it, to find meaning in it, and ultimately to transform it into wisdom. Humans are not the strongest, nor the most intelligent, nor the most powerful in the cycle, but they are the only ones in the entire vast wheel of samsara who can stop, look within, and ask the questions that change everything. Who am I? Why do I suffer? And how can I stop suffering? This realm is the sacred crossroads of samsara. It is not just any intermediate state. It is the only place in the entire cycle where consciousness can truly awaken fully. Here and only here can we cultivate the compassion the devas lack, for we know pain. We can develop the effort they do not know, for nothing is given to us for free. We can learn the humility the asuras despise, for we are constantly confronted with our own limitations. And we can rediscover the love Naraka buried beneath layers of hatred. Thoth, the Egyptian master, saw the human realm as the great alchemical laboratory of the universe. It is on this plane that the raw material of experience, with all its pain, joy, loss, and achievement, can be transmuted into the pure gold of the spirit. Our free will, this ability to choose between selfishness and compassion, makes us simultaneously dangerous and sacred. We are capable of creating the most sublime beauty and the most terrible chaos. We can save the world, or we can destroy it. The choice is ours at every moment. This is why a human birth is considered so rare and coveted by beings from all other realms. Although our lives seem fragile, short, and often insignificant amidst the vastness of the cosmos, they contain the seed of the most powerful possibility of all, that of awakening and stepping off the wheel. The chance to stop spinning lies not in the paradises of pleasure or the hells of pain, but here in the beating heart of an ordinary human being who finally decides to remember who they truly are. The opportunity to ascend to the highest realms of consciousness or fall into the deepest abysses of ignorance is in our hands at every moment, with every choice, with every thought. Our existence is a constant dance on a razor's edge, but to navigate this perilous crossroads without getting lost, to use this unique opportunity wisely, we must first understand the two invisible forces that guide our every step: silent memory and the inner compass that accompany the soul on its long and winding journey. In every realm, from the highest to the lowest, and especially here in the human realm, two invisible forces act silently, weaving the tapestry of each being's destiny. The ancient sages of India gave them names that are familiar today, but rarely understood in their depth: karma and dharma. Karma is not a cosmic system of reward and punishment, nor is there a bearded judge in heaven recording your mistakes. Karma is, much more simply and directly, the impartial memory of the soul. It's the law of cause and effect in its most intimate and personal form. It's a force that doesn't pursue you to punish you, but accompanies you to teach you. It ensures, with mathematical precision, that you reap exactly what you sow. Every thought, every word, and every action leaves an energetic trail, an impression on your soul that, sooner or later, will manifest in your reality. Karma isn't a punishment, it's a learning experience. The lesson you refuse to learn often disguises itself as a fall, as pain, as loss, until you finally understand the message. Dharma, in turn, is not a list of duties or obligations you must fulfill. Dharma is a direction. It's your inner compass, the silent call of your soul that guides you even when everything around you seems like absolute chaos. It's not a reward you receive for being a good person, but rather the resonance you feel when you're aligned with your deepest purpose. It's that immortal part of you that remembers who you are and what you came here to do. even when the veil of forgetfulness touches you at birth. Dharma is the force that drives you toward harmony, toward right action that benefits not only yourself, but the whole of which you are a part. It doesn't reward you with external things, but guides you back home to your center. It returns to you the energy of the pure intentions you once planted, the seeds of light you sowed in the lives of others or on your own path. Karma is the memory of what you have done. Dharma is the call to what you can become. Thoth, in his Hermetic wisdom, described this same dynamic through the principle of cause and effect, categorically stating that chance is merely a name we give to a law we do not yet recognize. Karma and Dharma are the manifestation of this universal law on the plane of individual consciousness. Together, they maintain a cosmic order with such impeccable precision that it makes us question whether there isn't, in fact, a higher intelligence organizing the entire game behind the scenes. Knowing these two laws is absolutely fundamental to navigating the human realm. But knowing them alone is not enough. True mastery, true power lies not in merely observing the game and its rules, but in learning to play wisely. It is learning to use the very rules of the universe to transcend its apparent limitations. And to take this step, to become a conscious player, Thoth left even more secret keys that promise not only understanding, but mastery over the very portals of life and death. The keys to life and death. For the overwhelming majority of beings trapped in the wheel of samsara, death is the greatest terror. It is the end of everything they know, the erasure of their identity, followed by a plunge into oblivion that throws them back into the cycle, often under conditions they did not choose. But Thoth, the guardian of the deepest mysteries, reveals in his emerald tablets a truth that can change everything. Death, when understood, can be the greatest and most powerful tool of liberation there is. Death need not be an end, it can be a strategy. In Tablet 13, one of the most enigmatic and powerful texts ever written, he presents what he calls the keys of life and death. He teaches that it is entirely possible to cross the portal of transition, the moment of physical death, with consciousness completely intact, lucid, and awake. This transforms what would otherwise be a traumatic and unconscious end into a deliberate and chosen new beginning. The secret, he teaches, lies not in avoiding death, but in mastering the art of dying consciously, of using death as a vehicle. The path to this mastery, according to Thoth, passes through the legendary halls of Amenti. This is not a physical place, but an interdimensional space, the underworld that is not of darkness, but of profound renewal. It is a cosmic womb where the initiate's soul is tested, purified of its karmic impurities, and where it can, if worthy, drink from the source of eternal life. This eternal life is not the immortality of the physical body, which is merely a temporary vehicle, but the uninterrupted continuity of consciousness through the ages. Thoth claims to have traversed these halls countless times, renewing his existence, changing bodies as one changes clothes, but retaining the memories and wisdom accumulated over millennia. For the master who possesses these keys, death ceases to be an imposition of fate and becomes a choice. It becomes a voluntary act of leaving a body that has served its purpose to assume a new one, or for those who have transcended the need for physical form to ascend to planes of existence far beyond our comprehension. This is the true process of ascension, the great work of spiritual alchemy. It is not about escaping the world or denying matter, but about mastering it from within. It is the transmutation of mortal, limited, and reactive consciousness into an immortal, free, and creative consciousness. And this process, this alchemical journey, begins here and now in the human realm, with the purification of thoughts, the balance of emotions, and the conscious alignment with the universal laws that govern everything. The keys of Thoth open the door not to endless life in an aging body, but to something far greater. The freedom to navigate the infinite ocean of existence, to come and go as one pleases, to become a master of the cycle rather than its slave. It is the promise of becoming a shepherd of souls, a guide to others. But this knowledge, however powerful and transformative, remains utterly inert, like a seed in barren soil, unless activated by the only thing that truly matters, the final catalyst that brings the entire map to life. And so we reach the journey's end, and at the same time, its true and only beginning. The long journey through the realms of consciousness, the profound understanding of the laws of karma and dharma, and the possession of the secret keys of life and death, all converge on a single point, a single event, a single purpose: awakening. Both the state of nirvana described by Buddha and the process of ascension taught by Thoth point to the same transcendent and liberating truth. Awakening is not about reaching an external paradise, a place of eternal rest, or a reward for good behavior. It is about something much more radical and intimate, realizing in every fiber of your being the divinity that has always existed within you. It is the moment when the drop of individual consciousness, which felt small, separate, and lost, finally recognizes itself as the very ocean of universal consciousness. It is the end of the illusion of separation, the end of self versus world. As Thoth reminds us in his writings, true transformation is not about gaining more knowledge, but about remembering who you truly are. All the knowledge about the realms, the poisons, and the laws is just the map. It's useful, it shows you the terrain, but it's not the path. The daily practice of meditation, self-mastery, observation of thoughts, and unconditional compassion is the path. Awakening is the destination, the arrival home. Living awake doesn't mean isolating yourself from the world. It means walking in the world, but no longer being of the world. It means watching the wheel of samsara turn, with its tragedies and comedies, but no longer being dragged along by it. It means feeling emotions, but not being controlled by them. It means acting in the world no longer out of karmic impulse, out of automatic reactions from the past, but out of dharmic purpose, with the clarity and intention of someone who understands the rules of the game and chooses their moves with wisdom and love. The cycle of the universe never ends, for the rhythm of creation is eternal, but its participation in it is fundamentally transformed. The awakening soul no longer needs to be reborn in ignorance, tossed back and forth by the tides of fate. It can choose its next step. It can choose to return as a guide to help others still lost in darkness. It can choose to ascend to higher planes of cosmic service, or it can choose simply to dissolve into the infinite light of the whole, returning to the source from which it was never truly separated. The journey of the soul, with its falls and ascents, its deaths and rebirths, is ultimately revealed not as condemnation or punishment, but as the grandest and most epic of adventures. The traveler who reaches the end of this narrative is no longer the same person who began it, for the secret of life and death is not information to be learned from a book or a video. It is a truth to be lived. The map has always been in your hands. The key has always been in your pocket. The secret has always been and always will be you. If you've made it this far, it's because your soul has recognized the truth in these words. You are no longer the same person who began this video. The seed of awakening has been planted. To let me know you've made this journey with me, leave the phrase in the comments. The wheel no longer controls me. If this knowledge resonated with you and you want to help this channel grow and spread more content like this, there's a way to contribute directly in the first pinned comment. Any help you can give is very important to me and to the future of the channel, allowing this message to reach more people seeking awakening. But understand, just the fact that you made it to the end is a huge help. If you can't contribute, please share this video with someone you feel needs to hear it. And before you go, don't leave yet. I've put together a special video to delve deeper into everything we've discussed here and give you the next practical step on this journey. Click on the video that's currently showing on your screen, and we'll meet there.